the Happy Afloat podcast, tales of family adventures at sea.
Coming up in this episode,
we leave Harwich and head towards Hartlepool.
Important gear starts breaking.
We have our first night sail.
and we get caught in a thunderstorm.
More tales from our summer adventure.
Last time, we were at Suffolk Yacht Harbour, waiting for the wind to help blow us north.
Now there was a break in the weather, which would give us about 2.5 days to make some progress.
We wanted to get to Scotland and start exploring.
A non-stop passage until the weather turned would give us the most bang for our bucks.
The wind was forecasted to be light. The engine was going to be doing most of the work on this trip.
I had recently bought a diesel engine book and wanted to put my knowledge into practice.
Okay, Leon, engine check time.
Okay.
Let's get the lights on so we can see what's going on in here. What's first? Visual inspection. Have a look. See if we can see any oil
Can't see
underneath the engine.
Can't see any oil or fuel.
Or any leaks. Have a good look. That's all looking pretty good. So that's while we're doing a visual check, we can also have a look at the header tank for the water. If you can see, it's between the two marks. So that's good. Let's have a quick look at the belt to make sure that there's no cracks in it. I think the belt looks good. Looks in pretty good nick as well. What's next? Check the oil. We'll take off the side panel so we can get better access. And just move it out here out of the way. If you take this bit of towel.
And check the oil.
Yep. Pull out the dipstick. And then as you go, wipe it as it comes out. Alright, and then plock it back in. Ram it all the way back in. And then pull it all the way out. And then just catch the bottom drip. Just bounce it on your towel so we can still see the readings. Now, where is the oil level?
I need you to shine the light.
See those two notches? Is the top level between those two notches?
Yes.
Whereabouts? Turn
Roughly
towards me.
Just about the middle. Just about above the middle.
Okay, well, we might put a bit of oil in actually. Top it up. So if you take off the oil filler cap, which is this one, that's where you put the oil in.
Which way do I turn it?
Left loosey, righty tighty. So you need to turn it to the left, anti-clockwise.
I can't do it.
Okay, let's see. There you go. I'll start it off for you. Just carry on.
It was actually quite tight.
I thought it was quite loose actually. You need to eat more Weetabix in the morning. Put that to one side. So we give it a splash of oil and then we check the level again. Put that amount in and give it a few seconds to work its way down. Yeah, it will go all the way down into the sump. That's where the dipstick measures from. So if you take the dipstick out now, exactly the same procedure as before. Take it out and wipe it. Pop it back in again and then read the measurement. Because we just put new oil in, it'll be a slightly different colour. So have a look now. Where's the top mark? Is it towards the top notch or the bottom notch? It's where the line goes all the way across. What we do is we'll give it another little dribble.
Then test again.
Yep. Because we don't want to overfill it. There we go. I'll get you a new kitchen towel. Just check the oil again. And where's the mark now?
Just below it.
Excellent. And put the oil filler cap back on. Put him on.
So we've maintained the engine.
Yep, I think we're all good now.
Okay.
Ready to go.
We left Suffolk Yacht Harbour and went back to the anchorage and prepared happy afloat for the long passage.
It was time to brief the crew on the passage plan. Crew briefing time. Right, who knows where we're going to tomorrow? Actually, first off, who knows where we are at the moment?
Yeah.
Right, who knows where we're going?
Hartlepool, isn't it?
To get to Hartlepool, we need to sail out of Harwich, all the way around Suffolk, all the way around Norfolk, cross the Wash, Humber, past Flamborough Head, past Scarborough and all the rides, past Whitby, and then it's just round the corner.
So is this where we are now? So we're here?
We're there, to a Ness. We'll be coming out of here, going round the bottom of the shipping channel, then we cut across all the way up the coast, passing Southwold. If it's looking horrendous and we don't want to carry on, we can always pop into Lowestoft. That's about our only safe port. And then we're going to go through these boys here behind this scroby sandbank, pop out the top and cockle.
Up until we're clear of Norfolk, we've only got Lowestoft to go to.
Basically, because it's quite a drying, shallow coastline.
Yeah, I worked that.
Yeah, so Lowestoft is like a harbour, and then there's no more harbours along there.
So it's 217 miles, and it's going to take 1 day and 16 hours, or 40 hours, or maybe a bit quicker, hopefully, with our new prop.
So Dad's reckoning that we'll get there about midnight on Thursday night.
That's if we power straight onto Hartlepool.
Yeah.
So that means we'll probably get into Brunswick Bay if it's an option, 9-10 o'clock.
Yeah, before it's dark, which would be ideal.
So that means it's going to be at least one night sail, possibly late into the night on the second day, or a bit of evening sailing. We might pop into the anchorage and then carry on the following morning. So what I want to do is leave here at 8
In the morning.
So I guess up at 7:30, get ready, and we burn off. Tide will be against us for a couple of hours, but what I want to do is get as far past this Norfolk coast as possible before the tide turns against us, because the tide will be running down here very strong, and what will happen is we'll be sat there for hours barely moving. But what we have got to watch out for is there's wind farms. There's new wind farms being built, so we've got a wind farm that we're passing here, there's one that was being built here,
Construction boat?
Yeah.
and then there's gas platforms as well, and we're not allowed to sail through construction sites, so we should be dog-legging around it. And if the weather does go bad, we can always pop into the River Humber, and we can hide behind here to anchor if it gets strong northerlies. There's an anchorage here, Firely, there's an anchorage up here, or just beyond that you've got Scarborough. We've been to Scarborough, so we can pop into there and have some fish and chips.
So there's a few places if the weather forecast is looking horrible.
Exactly, we may have a bit of wind on the nose for a few hours as well, so we may have to motor sail up here. In fact, we may have to motor a lot of it. The reef focus is filled out until we leave the Norfolk coast, because it doesn't go any further north. I've also filled out the tidal streams on C29, which covers this pretty much all the way there.
Now, C24.
Oh, do you know what I like about C24?
What?
It's got a magical word on it.
Scotland?
Yes, Scotland!
The boys were excited. They'd been looking forward to a night sail. Why do you like night sailing, boys?
You get to see the sunset, stars, sunrise, unlimited movie time, and the goodie box.
And what's the goodie box?
A Tupperware container full of delicious sweets.
We had an early night, excited for the adventures to come.
It was a beautiful sunny morning.
Are we ready for our big trip?
Yes!
Open up all your curtains, please. Let's get some light in here. You see that big yellow thing in the sky? Does anyone remember what it's called? Oh, look at that sunshine.
Don't give me no sunshine. Don't give me no moonlight. Don't give me such good time. Blame them up again. Grab a kettle on.
Excellent idea.
Keep waiting for the gas to go. I bet it's going to go while we're at sea. We'll have the faff of...
Alright, starting the engine.
Woohoo!
Okay, who's ready for adventure?
Hartlepool!
What's time? Come on, we've only got 50 seconds, otherwise we're going to be running late.
We motored for a few hours until there was enough wind to sail.
Whilst sailing past Orford Beach, stuff started to break.
First, the gas alarm started playing up.
It had been randomly chirping during the last few days.
We decided that maybe the sensor head needed changing.
It is a consumable part, and ours was past its recommended life.
We still had internet reception, so I ordered a replacement for delivery to Hartlepool Marina. After the Suffolk Yacht Harbour experience, I contacted Hartlepool first. They were delighted to be able to accept a parcel on our behalf.
Next, the nav station chart plotter decided to misbehave.
We used Navionics on the tablet as our below-decks plotter. It kept adding a few thousand miles to our track in a random direction, ruining the accumulated log figure.
Yeah, the problem with the Navionics app is it been upgraded so it would then accept GPS signal over Wi-Fi. Unfortunately, the app doesn't have the ability to turn this off, because we used to use the tablet's internal GPS and it would have been absolutely fine for many, many years. But for some reason, it doesn't like our GPS signal over Wi-Fi on the boat. So it kept throwing it off course by several thousand miles on a regular basis. We did eventually solve that, but it wouldn't be until a few weeks' time.
Just as the nav station plotter issue appeared to be fixed,
The Yeoman plotter died.
Our beloved yeoman. Alas, poor yeoman. I knew it well.
After singing the praises of a yeoman only a few episodes ago, this is how we are repaid.
the yeoman had breathed its last, and we did without it for the rest of the summer adventure.
We had now decided not to replace it. Yeomans are now long in the tooth, and working units are hard to find.
The end of an era. We managed to sail all afternoon until we got to Great Yarmouth.
Half a load of stuff.
Come up to Great Yarmouth.
We've seen Border Force. They've been out. We wait for them. Great.
Oh, we're going to make it to the end of the coast in time. We need to get to Cockle before the tide turns. Is it going to happen?
Then the wind died.
So we put the engine on.
After around 4 hours of motoring, the exhaust temperature alarm sounded.
We would like to say that we were cool, calm and collected about the matter.
But I was panicking.
The readout on the display unit read 120 degrees Celsius.
This was not good news.
Happy Afloat came with a Volvo stainless steel water trap plumbed into the exhaust system. Now, the problem with the Volvo water trap is it will rot from the inside out and eventually will leak salty hot water and fumes into your boat.
We wanted to avoid this situation and had proactively swapped out the Volvo water trap for a plastic Vitus version.
The potential problem with the plastic water trap is it could melt if the exhaust temperature was too high.
If, for example, the raw water stopped flowing through the system, blockages and the like, then the exhaust gases could potentially be hot enough to be a problem.
So we also installed an exhaust temperature alarm to warn us of this situation.
And 120 degrees Celsius was far too high, melting our water trap too high.
We quickly checked that water was still coming out of the exhaust.
It was. And it was still water and not steam.
We didn't want a steam-powered boat.
COVID temperature guns are marvellous. We zapped various parts of the engine and the exhaust system.
Fortunately, all was good. The temperature measurements were not out of the ordinary.
It looked like we had faulty wiring somewhere.
Another project for Dad when we got to Hartlepool.
The engine would ultimately clock up over 30 hours of motoring on this passage, and apart from the strange temperature readings, it didn't miss a beat.
We had now left the Norfolk coast and would be spending the night weaving our way between wind farms and gas platforms.
The night was clear and the sea was flat. The visibility was good.
And our goodie boxes had been filled with snacks. Yummy!
The adults were on 3-hour night watches and the boys could dip in and out of watchkeeping as they liked. That said, the boys were in bed of their own accord before midnight, after they had eaten the contents of their goodie boxes.
Mum and Dad motored through the night.
The nature and number of wind farms created a bottleneck effect between us and the commercial ships.
And there were a couple of closer than comfortable encounters.
However, soon the bottlenecks were behind us and open seas were ahead.
And the sun was rising.
I checked the fuel gauge. We had less than half a tank.
Then it started to rain.
We were burning fuel faster than expected.
There were still 100 nautical miles to go, which meant around 20 hours of motoring.
And it would be motoring, as the latest forecast had no favourable winds for us.
In fact, the strong northerlies would be returning a day sooner than expected.
No anchoring at our favourite Brunswick Bay now. We needed to find a safe harbour for a couple of days.
Did we have enough fuel to press on to Hartlepool?
Like many boats, our fuel gauge is not super accurate, and we guesstimated we had about 60 litres of fuel in the tank.
We dug out the ship's log and started to work out how many litres per hour we were using. We calculated that the engine was burning almost 3 litres per hour.
We would run out of fuel as we arrived at Hartlepool.
Not a good plan. Who knows what is lurking at the bottom of our fuel tank?
We would find out later exactly what was in the bottom of our tank.
Obviously, we did not want to arrive on fumes. This would leave no room for error on our guesstimate figures. We had to stop en route to fill up or reduce the burn rate.
If only we had a spare jerry can of fuel.
We did have a jerry can. It was, however, empty.
We had made this passage before, motoring most of the way, with plenty of fuel to spare.
Our usual fuel usage was just over 2 litres, so why the big change? Was it our new prop?
It's time for our regular feature of
Featherstream Prop Talk.
The new prop was indirectly the cause of the high fuel usage, because now we had the correct size prop, we could rev the engine higher than in the past.
And higher revs equals higher fuel bills.
We had been guilty of being a little heavy-handed with the throttle and enjoying the much faster speeds.
We cut the revs back to our old cruising speed.
And according to our new calculations, we should arrive at Hartlepool with about 20 litres to spare.
We debated whether to stop at Scarborough, which we'd be passing later, to top up.
But there is no fuel berth at Scarborough, so we'd be ferrying jerry cans around town all day.
Stopping at Scarborough would mean staying for a few days as we would run out of good weather. We reached Flamborough Head at noon, our major tidal gate for the day.
Passing a few porpoises and seals along the way.
The sun came out and we were able to sail up the coast.
Got to eke out that fuel.
In a few hours, Scarborough was in sight.
Although we love Scarborough,
The facilities for yachties are a bit basic.
So we convinced ourselves we had enough fuel left in the tank and kept heading north.
now probably is not a good time to ask why the adults had not filled up the spare jerry can.
When Scarborough was 7 nautical miles behind us, there was a strange sound.
Was that thunder?
Unlikely. There's nothing forecasted.
Did you see that? A flash of lightning?
We fired up the internet and checked the weather forecasts.
There was no mention of a thunderstorm on any of our favourite weather sites.
The clouds were heading from north to south along the coastline, and the wind speed was increasing.
Maybe if we headed further offshore, the storm would pass between us and the land. There was clear sky out to sea.
So we turned the engine on and motor sailed away from the shore.
The plan seemed to be working.
Thunder and lightning flashed and crashed along the coast as the dark clouds moved away.
It looked like the worst was over. The wind died down and the clouds were a lot brighter.
We headed back towards the land. Then the heavens opened and the rain poured down.
We hid below.
I hid in the companionway under the spray hood.
I got wet. Although I was tempted to engage the autopilot and hide, this stretch of coast is littered with pot markers, so I was helming by hand.
The sky lit up. Lightning arced in the sky around us. There was an instantaneous, boat-shaking crack of thunder. Somehow, the storm was now right above us.
I jumped out of my skin. There's something about 300 million volts of electricity discharging above your head that brings on this kind of reflex action.
What attracts and conducts lightning the best? A mast? A wet mast? A wet bed of the helm?
I put the autopilot on and hid below.
There were no more close calls and the storm and rain moved quickly away.
We sailed on, passing Whitby around 7 p.m. The wind was now on the nose, so the engine went on.
We debated if we should pop into Whitby. They also don't have a fuel berth, and Hartlepool was now only 20 nautical miles away.
So we convinced ourselves that we had enough fuel left and kept on going.
Is now a good time to ask why the adults had not filled up the spare jerry can at Suffolk Yacht Harbour?
Hartlepool is a locked marina. The next time we would have enough water to lock in was at 1 a.m. The journey would take 4 hours now, so we had a couple of hours to kill.
Should we anchor for a few hours, either at Runswick Bay or outside the marina?
The wind direction was now not suitable for Runswick Bay, and after phoning the marina, we were none the wiser if anchoring outside was an option.
We decided to knock the boat speed down to a crawl and motor just in time for the next lock-in.
Just as well we were going slow. There were so many pots that we had to weave constantly to avoid them.
On the return trip a few months later, we did the same passage in daylight, and it's incredible that we didn't hit anything. It's definitely
Pot-tastic.
It was frustrating going so slow. The boys went to bed.
Eventually, we finally arrived and locked into the marina. By 1:30 in the morning, Happy Afloat was tied alongside. No sooner had we crawled into bed, the rain started lashing down and the wind howled for the next 24 hours.
We had beaten the weather. Just.
We had not run out of fuel. Just. The fuel gauge was, however, reading empty.
How much fuel did we have left? And what was that evil-looking stuff in the bottom of the tank and in the fuel filter?
But that is a story for another time. Okay, any other thoughts about this particular passage? Lessons learned? Conrad, what lessons did you learn on this particular trip?
You should always have a filled up jerry can.
Oh, yeah, do you think? Will it give you a peace of mind having a full jerry can?
Do I think? Of course I think that.
Spare jerry can would have probably been quite nice. But then we did, from that point onwards, for the rest of the adventure, always make sure we had filled up jerry can on board at a bare minimum.
If I had my way, I'd have multiple spare jerry cans.
But you have to sacrifice your freezer, wouldn't you, so it could store it somewhere.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Priorities.
You might want to say a bit about the lovely lockkeeper.
Yes, the lockkeeper at Hartlepool was just so kind, wasn't he? He gave us the biggest berth in the marina, which was huge.
I think they're all quite big, the berths there, especially at that end of the
Yeah,
marina.
they are, but that was massive, that berth, wasn't it? And he took all our lines, tied them up for us.
Yes, it was very nice.
Yeah, it was very nice. Couldn't do enough to help us.
He obviously spotted that we were quite tired.
Yeah.
Especially so the boys were tucked up in bed and didn't realise we'd
Didn't even know we'd landed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Didn't hear the wind either.
No. Fortunately, there wasn't really any wind when we pulled into the marina.
It was dead quiet.
It was dead quiet.
And then as soon as we got the spray hood up
It just,
and downstairs, it just poured down.
yeah.
And the
And
wind.
then howled.
I didn't hear any of that.
He was probably
It was nice
so
and
tired.
asleep.
Exactly.
So yeah, no.
Guys, we're asleep.
10 out of 10 to Hartlepool Marina.
And they were even happy to take our packages And
We'll get on to that next episode about our new theory about how polite the marina staff are versus
The ratio of helpfulness to
quality of shower block, which is a new theory I have. But the nicer the staff and the more helpful the staff, the worse their shower blocks are. Because do you remember in Arklow, the nicest harbour master in the world, and his shower blocks are absolutely
horrendous.
They all share the same water system.
Yeah, so first person that gets in turns it on, has lovely shower pressure and warm water. The next person goes into the shower and suddenly your pressure drops by half.
Yeah,
By the time you've got 4 people in there, everyone's sharing the same dribble.
It was horrendous.
Yes, you have a quarter of the pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's a new theory that we'll be expanding upon.
do you remember the exceptions we found to your theory?
What exceptions?
There were a couple marinas where they had pretty decent quality facilities and also rather nice staff. Although, of course, you've got to include outside factors to it for the exceptions to work out a good reasoning for why.
Well, it could be that the whole theory is a load of old nonsense and it's just a dig at Suffolk Yacht Harbour. How many pots did you spot from Whitby to Hartlepool?
500,000?
I think that's a bit of a lowball figure, 500,000. It's absolutely incredible. I've never seen so many pots.
On the plus side, we didn't hit any.
The only good thing about the sheer quantity of pots there, they are all properly marked. They're not like off the Essex coast where it's just tubs of milk cartons and oil cans below the surface. At least they are properly marked with flags, so you can spot them.
But they do look deceptively like seabirds as well, like from a distance when you're just looking.
What do you reckon, seabird, Conrad?
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Clearly I need better
I
glasses.
think they've got around 90% of the population of Earth.
Very good. Potulation.
Is that going to be a good joke?
No, don't give up your day job.
Thank you for sticking us in your ears.
We love feedback.
In fact, we usually wait until we have feedback before working on the next episode.
So, if you want to encourage us to release episodes more frequently,
Send some feedback.
Send an email or a posting on Facebook. All relevant links are on the website happyafloat.com.
If you'd like to help us grow, spread the word. As my mum says, it's nice to share.
And if you know someone who would enjoy the podcast, direct them to our website happyafloat.com.
From our website, they can listen to the podcast. Sharing is caring.
And don't forget to follow and rate us in your favourite podcast app.
A review on Apple Podcasts would be most welcome.
happyafloat.com.
next time aboard Happy Afloat.
Our first chip shop review of the adventure. And what is in our fuel tank? The dreaded diesel bug?
Until next time, happy sailing.